Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend the next hour together. And I do hope you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. We'll get right into it. Opening observations are clear. Everyone is still talking about what happened in the United States Capitol, in the Senate on Saturday, in terms of the verdict against the former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, with regard to his impeachment trial. He was acquitted. And now everybody wants to know where things stand. Where do we go from here? We'll talk about that tonight. And then we'll also focus on COVID-19. Let's get back to the business of taking care of each other and making sure that we can beat this menace to our lives, this coronavirus pandemic. We're going to be talking to Dr. Yolanda Hancock. She's a public health doctor as well as a pediatrician. She will weigh in on the plan that President Biden has put into place for getting vaccinations out. She'll also talk about school reopenings, and she'll talk about a very personal case to me, having gone through COVID myself. We'll talk about that as well. All that and more in tonight's program. And now, let's get to it.
Oh, these cowardly senators who couldn't face up to what the president did and what was at stake for our country are now going to have a chance to give a little slap on the wrist. We censure people for using stationery for the wrong purpose. We don't censure people for inciting insurrection that kills people in the Capitol.
So joining me now to talk about what unfolded this past weekend with the verdict in terms of the impeachment, the second impeachment trial of former President of the United States, Donald Trump, is a very astute team that understands politics and understands the law. So I'm joined by attorney Rosalind Ray, as well as Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, a political strategist, and attorney Timothy Allen Simon. Thank you one and all for being a part of this program today. I want to get right to it. Saturday was quite a stunning day for all Americans and for the entire world watching what the Senate did. 57 votes in favor of calling this president guilty, 43 votes, all Republican, saying not guilty. And then what happened afterwards was really quite revealing when Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Senate, who used to be the majority leader, basically going on to say everything the House manager said, that President Donald Trump was responsible for this heinous attack upon our democracy. And it smacked of all the hypocrisy. Though, before I get into it, let me let you guys get into it. Roz, I'll begin with you.
Well, they call him Moscow Mitch because he is so confused. If he had said exactly what he said the other day at the end and done it in the beginning, I believe you would have had a different vote. I also believe if they had done a secret vote, you would have had this man convicted. I still struggle with the manner in which they do this because just like somebody said the other day, you're never going to get the majority vote like they want you to have to be able to win. I learned that if you have 15 points and I got 10, I lost. So my thing is, he was convicted as far as I'm concerned. Somebody down I think in the future, they're going to have to change the way they do things with regard to situations like this. And I'm praying we never have a situation like this again. But had they rectified this in the beginning, we would not be sitting here talking about it because there was a significant amount of people that wanted him convicted.
Yeah, and you, of course, are referring to the 2/3 majority vote that happens in the Senate, and that didn't happen because only 7 Republicans actually crossed over into understanding the House managers and actually having a profile and courage moment by actually voting to find the former President of the United States guilty as charged with incitement to insurrection. Dr. Avis, what say you about all of this?
Yeah, it was a profile in cowardice. That's what we saw last week. With regards to Mitch McConnell, he plays the power game in a three-dimensional chess sort of way. So he came out initially on the day of the insurrection with very strong words against then President Trump. He came out and specifically at that time said that he thought that it would be appropriate to proceed with impeachment. You had that followed up by Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, very strongly saying, we are going to impeach this man. She did her part. She pulled her team together. They pushed through the impeachment papers. And then here goes Mitch McConnell again, pumping on the brakes, saying, well, we're not going to have time to do it now. We'll just wait until after the inauguration. He could have called back the Senate to hold this trial while Trump was in office, but he did not want to do that. So for his hypocritical self to stand up there on Saturday and then once again try to say, oh, this was horrible. Oh, this was criminal. Oh, he can face other problems, but I have a problem with the constitutionality of it. Let me tell you, it's two things wrong with that. Number one, he's the entire reason why it was delayed in the first place. And number two, the very first day of the proceedings was all about deciding the constitutionality of those proceedings, in which it passed the Senate.
Exactly.
And so that was a moot point at that stage in the game. All he was trying to do, in my estimation, is to try to do some damage repair in terms of the credibility of the Republican Party. He's trying to get back into the good graces of the major donors who had already said immediately following the insurrection that we ain't giving no money to you guys.
Let me bring in Timothy Allen Simon, and I'll point out that Timothy is still recovering from surgery, so we will not see his handsome face on screen, except for that great picture of his. But Timothy, thank you for joining us anyway, and we wish you your recovery, a speedy recovery and a healthy, complete recovery. But look, getting back to this, since we're talking about recovery in the very virtual and real sense, can the Republicans ever hope to recover from this?
Well, I think in some ways they already have. I don't believe the damage is as, has had the impact that many Democrats, I'm saying this as a former Republican, have assessed. I think they don't understand the strength of the beast within the Republican Party, and that beast is at the head, and that's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump's party. Mitch McConnell hedged in order to try to gain the graces of the Fuhrer, Donald Trump, in time. He did his job. Trump was not impeached. Chuck Schumer did not do his job. And I think the mistake that the Democrats make is depending upon Republicans to advance their agenda. We know that we're on the right moral ground. We know that God is on our side. Why do we, I ask, wait for this evil element in our country, and I'm talking about the white nationalist Republican Party, to dictate the outcome? I am not familiar with the Senate rules regarding impeachment, but if there was the possibility of a silent vote, just do it. Just do it. If witnesses put the senators more in embarrassment for their positions, having the officer who lost 3 fingers testify, having the family that lost their loved ones testify, utilizing the power of leniency to get one of those who invaded the Capitol to testify, hoping that they may get a more lenient outcome. That's how you win. So I knew we weren't going to win this. I knew that from the beginning, but I am frustrated when I watch the Democrats sit and wait for Republicans to endorse their efforts.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about this because, look, everybody's still talking about it. The entire world is looking at this and wondering what's at stake for the future of America. Back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. So I'm talking to attorneys Rosalind Ray, as well as Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, and attorney Timothy Allen Simon. And we're focusing on the impeachment, the outcome of it, and how this country goes forward. And we've been talking about the Republican end of things. Timothy, I want to come back to you real quickly because you worked with Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger when you were the chairman of the commissioner rather of public utilities there in the state of California. At the time, you were serving as a Republican, and then you left the Republican Party because of things similar to what we've just seen. But I want to ask you furthermore, your former governor and colleague, Arnold Schwarzenegger, has come out against President Donald Trump. Nikki Haley has finally come out against Donald Trump, saying that he led us down the wrong path and we should not have followed him down there. Is that too little, too late?
Well, you know, having worked with Governor Schwarzenegger, actually, when I was appointment secretary for the state of California and the first African American to serve in that role, I only offer that to give all the glory to God. But he understood that what he called post-partisanship. So he really embraced many elements. At the time, he was married to Maria Shriver. Sergeant Shriver was a mentor of his, her father. So he embraced the elements of the Democratic platform that he felt fit well into what he called a post-partisan nation state of California. And I commend former Governor and UN Ambassador Haley for denouncing Trump. But I think the issue that the conservatives have, that they've actually supported President Trump in the vast majority of his policies. Arnold did not early on. So I think they are going to have to engage in some level of atonement for supporting this autocrat.
I knew that they were going to side with past President Donald Trump. And it's a sad day because, as one of the congresswomen said, they left their conscience in the closet and came out and voted for wrongdoing. And when you have people who can tell you before they've heard any evidence that they're going to vote to acquit this man, that in itself is a problem. And I still say there has to be something put in place where they can do something when they hear these people say that and dismiss them from voting, because that made no sense. You had a lot of people that told you, I'm voting to acquit him, and they hadn't even gotten into the room yet. So when you make up your mind like that, that's an ethical problem.
Should there be a 9/11 style commission that conducts a probe of the attack on the nation's capital?
No question whatsoever. That is an absolute necessity. When you think about the fact that the Republicans, to Timothy's point that he made earlier, which was an absolutely brilliant point, I wish the Democrats would start acting a bit more like Republicans in this way. When you think about the fact that the Republicans had a 2-year probe on Benghazi, 2 years,
Yep.
2 years. And that was clearly just a political ploy because they were hoping to undercut the power of what they saw was coming would be a coming presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton. That's what that whole thing was about. And so that was completely politics. But if you look at what happened here, when you look at what happened here, where people are dead, we almost suffered a coup. We suffered an attempted coup. Our citadel of democracy was invaded by terrorists. To let that just go on and say, okay, well, it's done, when we know that I think the impeachment process was absolutely necessary, but as we all said, we knew what the outcome would be. So there needs to be a more elongated investigation of this. We need to find out more about who made decisions with regards to the fact that there would be a light presence, relatively speaking, of police that day, knowing all the chatter that was online with regards to what was being planned. We need to figure out to what degree. I believe there's more to uncover in terms of the White House involvement and coordination with those people who took up arms in that insurrection attempt.
We're coming back with more after this. One of the things that came through for me was Delegate Stacey Plaskett, who gave an incredible defense
Mhm.
of Black American women. And then Congressman Joe Neguse of Colorado, who gave an incredible defense of Black Americans. And House Manager Jamie Raskin, who gave an incredible defense of his friend Julian Bond, as well as Black Americans. And all three of them pointing out the fact that the portrait of Mr. Good Trouble, uh, John Lewis, was taken away, never to be found again. And his memory desecrated there, along with other things that have been desecrated there in the Capitol by these white supremacists and nationalist groups that went through the Capitol, leaving all kinds of debris and feces and blood for Black personnel, predominantly Black personnel, to clean up. I want to ask all three of you, how should Black Americans view this situation in knowing that those halls were built by Black Americans?
Wow, I'll give it a start. So, I'll say that it is, unfortunately, this is stunningly familiar for Black people throughout our history. We are intimately familiar with white mob violence. So this was not anything new to us. And I think, unfortunately, what we're seeing so far in terms of the lack of comparable consequences is nothing new to us. It once again shows the degree to which institutionalized racism runs deep in our country, and it's just it's infuriating, in fact, to see that once again we have found this nation to be stunningly consistent about the fact that when it comes to white violence, when it comes to white pathology, there is always an excuse, there is always a reason to downplay it, and there is a lack of accountability. And it's been this way for centuries, and it's very discouraging and infuriating to see that here we are still in 2021 dealing with the same mess, this time not only directed at us, but directed at the heart of our democracy.
Lindsey Graham taking another step further, this South Carolina senator going on to say that if the House swings to the right in the coming years, in the midterms, that they will go after Senator Kamala Harris.
So they don't care. They will do everything in their power to make sure that they can get with Donald Trump and run for office again. And the sad part about this is I just cannot even understand it. I'm lost for words because I cannot even understand how anybody could agree with a man. And I keep putting a word on when you say somebody got killed. See, there's two different classifications here. Some people got murdered, some people got killed. So there was two different categories here, because the girl who got killed was because she defied the order of the police. The police officer was murdered. So I think that you have got to look at that from that perspective, and they really need to charge Donald Trump with accessory to murder.
Let me just say, Lindsey Graham's threat on Vice President Kamala Harris, dear friend, that's just pure and unadulterated race baiting. I just want to get that in. That is to rally the base, because nothing sells better in America than racism. It's our number one global export. Okay. Two, I think that right now it's about the midterms. I understand that Stacey Abrams flipped Georgia with $5 million. That's pittance in terms of the Democratic National Committee. There needs to be a focus right now on greater voter registration, particularly in the southern states that are flippable, Mississippi, Texas. I think Alabama even has potential if we get on it now. With funds from the Democratic National Committee, should be putting the pictures and names of every legislator that voted to not impeach Donald Trump. We should know their names. Our children should know their names. They are the Confederacy. And by the way, that includes a man who I consider a friend, Tim Scott. They
Oh.
are the Confederacy. Okay. The other thing is, I believe the Democratic National Committee, and putting its money more towards the people that are the reason they are in power, needs to utilize either the Southern Poverty Law Center or other legal groups to track the proceedings. You can do it through LexisNexis, to track the proceedings of the terrorist and make sure that those proceedings have adequate coverage, because many of them are going to come before Trump judges. And we have to monitor that and make sure that those resources are put towards ensuring that that is exposed. If you look at any federal agency or state agency, you have the political appointees, then you also have the life workers. That's who Trump referred to as the deep state. So it's going to be necessary to expose this process to ensure that justice is carried out for those who attempted the coup, as Dr. Avis so brilliantly said, to nullify the African American vote. There's no other way to describe it. There's no other way. So I think these are going to have to be the steps going forward. But first and foremost, let's just, wipe our tears for now and get ready for these midterms, because they're going to be on us before we know it.
Thank you all very much.